The internal arrangement of the animals was meticulously planned. Genesis 6:14 mentions that Noah was to make rooms within the ark, establishing clear divisions between different types of animals. The 3 floors of the ark were probably used in the following ways. The lower deck, closer to the center of gravity, would accommodate large mammals and large animals, providing additional stability. The intermediate floor would receive medium-sized animals, such as deer, canines, and felines. The upper floor would be reserved for smaller animals, birds, and reptiles, benefiting from the natural ventilation provided by the Zohar. To minimize conflict, carnivores and herbivores were kept in separate enclosures. It is possible that some carnivores were fed special plant foods, as evidenced by modern examples of alternative diets in zoos. This point, although not detailed in the biblical text, is a plausible inference based on the principle of maintaining peace and order during the long journey. Another logistical challenge was waste management. The daily production of excrement by thousands of animals would have been colossal. Archaeological evidence and ancient texts indicate that similar structures in other ancient cultures used sloping floors and channels to remove waste. According to studies, Noah's Ark may have adopted gently sloping floors with collectors that diverted waste to disposal areas, minimizing the need for constant manual cleaning. The water supply, vital for survival, was also cleverly resolved. The Ark probably had internal cisterns for storing rainwater, collected through the Zohar and distributed by gravity or by simple conduction systems made of bamboo or hollow wood. The descriptions of rudimentary water collection and filtration systems in ancient cultures corroborate the plausibility of this technique. Internal lighting, necessary for maintaining daily activities, could have been provided by oil lamps using olive oil or animal fat as fuel. This practice was common in ancient civilizations and would have allowed basic tasks to be carried out without exposing the occupants to excessive risks. Feeding the animals was another crucial point. The provisions outlined in Genesis 6:21 instruct, "And you shall take to yourself of all the food that is eaten, and gather it for yourself, and it shall be for food, for you and for them." This indicates the advanced preparation of a variety of dry foods, grains, seeds, dried fruits, and hay, which, if properly stored, could sustain the fauna during the 370 days of confinement. The daily routine inside the ark was rigorous. Tasks included feeding the animals, collecting waste, checking the integrity of the internal structures, and maintaining the health of the crew. Each member of Noah's family likely had specific duties, distributing the workload efficiently and seamlessly. In short, the logistics of Noah's Ark, though monumental in scale, reveal precise planning and execution enabled by principles of order and wisdom guided by God. The survival of so many species under extreme conditions is in itself a powerful testimony to divine providence and the accuracy of the biblical accounts. Keeping thousands of animals and a small human crew alive for over a year inside the ark was undoubtedly one of the greatest logistical challenges ever recorded. To achieve this feat, a robust and ingenious system of feeding, water supply, and hygiene control was required. A detailed analysis of the biblical narrative, combined with historical knowledge and rudimentary engineering, reveals a scenario of impressive organization and competence. The provision of food was one of the first divine instructions to Noah. In Genesis 6:21 it is written, "And you shall take to yourself of all the food that is eaten, and gather it for yourself, and it shall be for food, for you and for them." This order makes it clear that food storage would be vital to the survival of not only humans, but also the animals on board. Given the diversity of the ark's occupants, Noah would have prepared a variety of durable foods, such as grains, seeds, dried fruits, and hay. Ancient preservation techniques, such as solar dehydration and storage in airtight ceramic or wooden containers, would have been employed. These practices were known in ancient cultures and could have been applied effectively even before the flood. To facilitate daily feeding, it is plausible that the Ark used semi-automatic distribution methods. Large ceramic jars, known as botellas, could have been fitted with small openings that released controlled amounts of food, reducing the need for constant handling. This strategy would have streamlined the work of the crew and minimized the risk of conflict between animals. Water supply was another absolutely essential element. Since the Ark would be at sea for months at a time, rainwater collection and storage systems were probably used. The structure mentioned in Genesis 6:16, the Sohar, not only served for lighting and ventilation, but may also have functioned as a channel for collecting rainwater. Internal cisterns built with waterproofed wood or large clay containers would have stored the collected water. Simple filtration systems using sand, charcoal and stones could purify the water, making it safe for consumption. Ancient civilizations such as the Egyptians and Sumerians already used similar methods for water treatment, making their application on the Ark plausible. Waste management is one of the most challenging issues when imagining life inside the Ark. Thousands of animals would produce tons of excrement every day. The solution to this problem involved implementing passive collection systems. The animal enclosures would have gently sloping floors, directing waste into side channels that flowed into large reservoirs. These reservoirs, in turn, could be emptied periodically through side gates, releasing the waste directly into the sea. The description in Genesis 8:6, "And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window which he had made in the Ark," shows that there were operable openings in the structure, which could well have also served to maintain ventilation and dispose of waste during the flood. Odor and disease control would have been a vital priority. Natural ventilation, provided by the Sohar and possible internal ducts, would ensure air renewal and the dispersion of harmful gases. The use of absorbent materials such as straw or sawdust spread over the floors of the compartments would help to neutralize odors and absorb moisture, making cleaning easier. The Ark's interior lighting relied on simple but effective sources. Oil lamps using olive oil or animal fat would provide sufficient light for daily tasks. In ancient cultures, this method was common and effective, even indoors. Noah's family's daily routine was rigorous and structured. Work was divided into shifts involving refilling water and food containers, cleaning the compartments, animal health monitoring, maintenance of ventilation and lighting systems, preparation of human meals, daily records, perhaps engraved on wooden or stone surfaces. This division of tasks not only maintained order, but was also vital to preserving the physical and mental health of the 8 human crew members during the prolonged confinement. The restricted human diet during the Ark period consisted primarily of grains, dried legumes, dried fruits, and unleavened bread. The post-flood account in Genesis 9:3 reveals a significant change. "Everything that moves and lives will be food for you. Like the green herb, I have given you everything." This verse marks divine authorization for the consumption of meat, suggesting that during their time on the Ark, Noah's family's diet remained strictly vegetarian. The integrated system of feeding, hydration, and waste management within the Ark represents a surprisingly effective model of sustainability under extreme conditions. Each element was essential to the harmonious functioning of the whole. The successful survival of so many living beings in such a confined space for over a year confirms that the operation of the Ark was not improvised, but meticulously planned, an unmistakable testament to divine wisdom and provision. A detailed analysis of these solutions shows that the biblical narrative of Noah's Ark, far from being a childish legend, presents technical and operational details of remarkable sophistication. By studying these structures and routines, one glimpses God's providential care, watching over each creature during the greatest cataclysm in human history. In the midst of the greatest cataclysm in recorded history, Survival inside Noah's Ark depended not only on the robustness of its construction, but also on the efficiency of its ventilation system and its structural stability in the face of the enormous forces of the waters. The Bible reveals essential details that, when analyzed in the light of modern engineering, prove that the vessel was designed with supernatural precision. Ventilation, crucial to the maintenance of life, is described in the sacred text in Genesis 6:16. "You shall make a window for the ark, and you shall finish it a cubit above. You shall put the door of the ark in its side. You shall make lower, second, and third stories for it." The original Hebrew term translated as window is sohar, which many scholars interpret as a continuous opening along the roof of the ark, about 18 inches high. This opening would have allowed light to enter and, more importantly, the constant renewal of the air inside. Air circulation in a closed structure crowded with animals is vital for the dispersion of gases such as carbon dioxide and ammonia. What modern archaeologists and engineers have discovered about Noah's Ark profoundly challenges traditional perceptions of this ancient story. For centuries, many people imagined the Ark as a simple, improvised wooden vessel. However, recent structural studies, analyses of ancient texts, and naval engineering experiments reveal an extraordinary truth. The Ark, as described in the Bible, is a feat of engineering so advanced that it surpasses the technological capabilities attributed to pre-flood civilizations. The evidence points to a superbly designed design, capable of withstanding the harshest conditions, sustaining the lives of thousands of living beings for more than a year at sea. According to the account in Genesis 6:14-16, God instructed Noah, saying, "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark and caulk it inside and out with pitch. This is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. You shall make a window for the ark, and finish it 1 cubit at the top. You shall put the door of the ark in its side. You shall make lower, second, and third stories for it." When translated into modern measurements, the dimensions reveal a vessel approximately 135 meters long, 22.5 meters wide, and 13.5 meters high. These proportions, now known as the maximum stability ratio, were identified by naval engineers as ideal for survival in extremely rough seas. Research conducted by the Korea Research Institute of Ships and Ocean Engineering has shown that a vessel with the dimensions of the Ark could withstand waves of up to 30 meters in height, maintaining stability without sinking. The internal structure of the Ark, with its 3 floors and specific compartments, would provide a logical division for accommodating animals of different sizes, storing supplies, and maintaining structural integrity. These facts demonstrate not only the historical plausibility of the Ark, but also the manifestation of a supernatural architectural intelligence. The project was not the result of chance or rudimentary human experimentation. It was designed by the one who created all the physical laws of the universe. As one delves deeper into these discoveries, it becomes clear that the story of Noah and his Ark is at once a testament to faith and a milestone in celestial engineering. The construction of Noah's Ark represented one of the greatest logistical and architectural challenges in ancient history. Without access to modern tools, cranes, sawmills, or mechanical systems, the construction of this colossal vessel was only possible through divine guidance and an impressive management of the resources available at the time. According to Genesis 6:22, we read, "So Noah did, according to all that God commanded him, so he did." This brief statement reveals Noah's absolute obedience, not only in spirit, but also in technical execution. The material specified for construction was gopher, wood. The original Hebrew term, gopher, is unique and appears only in this passage, generating debate among scholars. Leading hypotheses indicate that it could have been cypress, known for its water resistance and durability, or a variety of dense, robust wood, perhaps even extinct after the flood. The choice of this wood demonstrates knowledge of the need for resistance to prolonged humidity. The use of bitumen, indicated for internal and external caulking of the structure, further reinforces this concern. Genesis 6:14 clearly states, "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shall you make in the ark, and caulk it inside and out with pitch." Bitumen, a substance derived from natural petroleum, acted as an extremely efficient sealant, preventing infiltration even under the most extreme conditions of a global flood. Structurally, the ark was divided into 3 floors, as mentioned in Genesis 6:16. "You shall make a window for the ark, and you shall finish it a cubit above. You shall put the door of the ark in its side. You shall make lower, second, and third stories for it." This internal division had specific purposes: stability, organized storage, and ease of handling animals. Modern engineering recognizes that compartmentalizing a large vessel reduces structural stresses and increases its ability to withstand twisting and impacts. Noah, at the time of construction, was about 500 to 600 years old, according to Genesis 5:32. And Noah was 500 years old and begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. This longevity, unattainable by current expectations, is a factor that contributes to understanding the physical capacity and leadership required to execute such an extensive project. The construction took approximately 120 years, as suggested in Genesis 6:3. "And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. The lack of modern technology required the use of simple leverage systems, wooden scaffolding, ramps, basic pulleys, and human strength. The entire operation depended on the skill of Noah and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, along with their wives, forming a group of just 8 people. This detail is confirmed in Genesis 7:13. On the same day, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, and Noah's wife and his 3 sons' wives entered the ark with him. The logistics involved cutting, transporting, carving, and assembling large-scale wooden pieces. It is estimated that hundreds of tons of timber were needed. Preparing for this gigantic undertaking would require years of constant work, precise planning, and careful management of natural resources. Furthermore, the location of the building, far from large navigable bodies of water, defied all human logic. Noah's faith, anchored in divine instructions, overcame any rational objection. He built the ark in a region that was probably central, where water seemed unthinkable, trusting exclusively in the Word of God. The ark's design also reflected an advanced understanding of hydrodynamic principles. The 6:1 aspect ratio, length to width, is ideal for stability in rough seas, preventing both capsizing and drifting. This configuration was confirmed by contemporary studies, such as that carried out by Dr. Seon Won Hong, a naval engineer who tested models based on the ark's dimensions and concluded that its shape would ensure safety even in the worst ocean storms. Another notable feature is the sohar, a Hebrew term interpreted as an opening at the top of the ark. This opening, described in Genesis 6:16 as being a cubit high, served as a ventilation system, promoting air circulation and internal temperature control, fundamental to the survival of so many animals and humans. In short, the construction of the ark not only defies human expectations about the technological capabilities of the time, it also displays clear signs of divine guidance. Every detail, from the type of wood to the ventilation system, points to an architectural plan that transcends the limitations of ancient human knowledge. Noah's Ark, therefore, is not only a symbol of spiritual salvation, it is also a monumental testimony to God's intervention in the most practical details of creation's survival. revealing the Creator's infinite wisdom. One of the most intriguing and often questioned aspects of the Noah's Ark narrative is the logistics involved in collecting, housing, and maintaining thousands of animals during the flood. However, a careful examination of the biblical text, coupled with contemporary scientific and archaeological analyses, reveals that this operation, although colossal, was organized with astonishing precision and based on sound biological and architectural principles. The divine command given to Noah regarding the animals is described in Genesis 6:19-20. "And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every kind, male and female, shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. Of fowl after their kind, and of beast after their kind, and of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind, 2 of every kind shall come unto thee, to keep them alive." Notably, the text indicates that the animals shall come unto thee, evidencing that Noah would not have needed to actively capture them. This phenomenon, often interpreted as supernatural migratory behavior, would have greatly simplified the operation, directing each creature to the ark under divine guidance. Another vital clarification comes from Genesis 7:2-3, where we read, "Of every clean animal you shall take to yourself by sevens, the male and his mate, but of the animals that are not clean, by 2 the male and his mate, and of the birds of the heavens by sevens, the male and the female, to keep the seed alive on the face of all the earth." This distinction establishes a crucial difference between clean and unclean animals, with the former being taken in greater numbers, probably in preparation for future sacrifices and food sustenance. Contrary to the popular idea that millions of species were shipped, studies indicate that the biblical concept of kind, min in Hebrew, refers to broad ancestral groups rather than the specific species we know today. For example, the canid kind would include wolves, dogs, and foxes. Modern estimates based on taxonomic analyses suggest that about 1/400 basic types of animals would have been transported, representing approximately 7,000 individuals, considering the additional pairs of clean animals. This understanding makes the logistical accommodation much more plausible. The Ark, with an estimated internal volume of around 43,000 cubic meters, would have had enough space to house this number of creatures, especially considering that the chosen specimens could have been juveniles or subadults, significantly smaller in size and with fewer dietary requirements. The presence of the sohar at the top of the Ark, combined with vertical ducts and the natural difference in pressure between the layers of hot and cold air, a phenomenon known as the chimney effect, would create a constant flow of air. This natural ventilation system, without the need for fans or modern mechanisms, would be effective in keeping the environment breathable. In addition to the upper ventilation, it is likely that small side openings, strategically positioned and protected against water ingress, contributed to increasing atmospheric renewal in the lower compartments, where the large mammals were housed. The constant exchange of air would have been essential for the survival of thousands of animals and the human crew during the more than 370 days of confinement. In addition to the need for ventilation, the stability of the Ark in the face of ocean storms was another challenge of gigantic magnitude. The shape of the vessel, as described in Scripture, with proportions of 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, approximately 440 feet by 75 feet by 44 feet, reveals an architecture perfectly balanced for extreme stability. Contemporary studies in naval engineering, such as those conducted by the Korea Research Institute of Ships and Ocean Engineering, have shown that a vessel with a length-to-width ratio of 6.1 has a remarkable ability to withstand waves of up to 30 meters in height without risk of capsizing. These studies concluded that the Ark would have floated safely even in extremely rough seas, absorbing the impact of the waves thanks to its rectangular shape and low center of gravity. The biblical account in Genesis 7:17-18 confirms the strength of the vessel. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth. And the waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed, and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the water. This passage attests that the ark was lifted by the rising waters and remained sailing on them without sinking or breaking apart, despite the colossal forces that attacked it. The internal structure of the ark also contributed decisively to its stability. Composed of transverse and longitudinal beams similar to the cellular compartmentalization system used in modern ships, the construction provided high resistance to the torsional and flexural forces caused by the waves. The gopher wood, treated with bitumen according to God's command, ensured impermeability and flexibility, allowing the structure to absorb shocks without breaking. The roof of the ark, probably reinforced with overlapping layers of wood and sealed with bitumen, would have prevented infiltration, while the elongated and flattened shape would have reduced as much as possible the effects of lateral rolling, increasing navigation safety. During the initial 40 days of uninterrupted rain, as recorded in Genesis 7:12, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, the conditions would have been extremely unstable. Thunder, lightning, violent waves and torrential rains assaulted the ark without ceasing. And yet the vessel resisted, successfully protecting its precious contents. It is important to note that the ark was not designed to sail from one point to another like a common ship. Its sole purpose was to float stably, withstanding the worst sea conditions ever seen. The absence of sails, oars, or rudders confirms this primary objective of static survival. The coating of the wood with pitch mentioned in Genesis 6:14 played a key role not only as a barrier against water, but also as a flexibility agent. The pitch, known for its ability to expand and contract without breaking, allowed the structure of the ark to breathe under pressure, preventing cracks and leaks. Thus, the ark's natural ventilation system, structural robustness, and hydrodynamic balance converged to create a shelter perfectly adapted to the mission of preserving life through the fury of the elements. Every technical detail identified in the biblical narrative reveals the indelible mark of divine inspiration, transcending any purely human explanation. The survival of the ark, as recorded in Genesis 8:1, and God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark, and God caused a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters abated. It is the final testimony to God's faithfulness to his plan and to the excellence of the design that safeguarded the continuity of life on earth. The journey of Noah and his family on the ark did not end with simply surviving the cataclysm. The landing on Mount Ararat marked the beginning of a new era for humanity and for all creation. The biological, social, and spiritual implications of the post-flood period reveal profound transformations, establishing a new order that would shape Earth's history from then on. The account in Genesis 8:18-19 describes this pivotal moment. Then Noah went out, and with him his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives. Every animal, every creeping thing, every bird, and everything that moves on the earth according to their families went out of the ark. The exodus of the ark's occupants symbolized not only a new beginning, but also the implementation of new mandates for the preservation of life. The Earth's biodiversity was restored from the pairs preserved on the ark. According to the biblical concept of kinds, min, the few thousand animals shipped were enough to repopulate the planet. Modern studies in population genetics indicate that a small number of founder individuals can generate broad diversity through speciation processes over generations. The biblical testimony in Genesis 9:1 reinforces this mission. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Just as Adam had been given the command to subdue and fill the earth, now Noah and his descendants were entrusted with the same responsibility, marking the continuation of the divine plan for humanity. A dietary change was also instituted after the flood. As we read in Genesis 9:3, everything that moves and lives will be food for you. Like the green herb, I have given you everything. Before the flood, the human diet was strictly vegetarian, as mentioned in Genesis 1:29. The new paradigm introduced meat consumption as a divine concession to the changed conditions of the post-flood environment, which possibly had a lack of vegetation. Still, an important limitation was imposed as set forth in Genesis 9:4. But flesh with the life thereof, that is, the blood thereof, ye shall not eat. The prohibition of ingesting blood indicated respect for the life granted by God and established ethical limits in humanity's relationship with creation. The new covenant was sealed with Noah and all living things according to the powerful account in Genesis 9:11-13. And I establish my covenant with you, that all flesh shall never again be cut off by the waters of a flood, neither shall there be any more a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you, for everlasting generations. I do set my bow in the cloud. It shall be the token of the covenant between me and the earth. The rainbow, as a visible symbol of God's promise, became a perpetual reminder of God's mercy and faithfulness, not only to Noah and his family, but to all subsequent generations. The rainbow represented the assurance that the total destruction of the flood would never be repeated. The dispersion of humanity from the descendants of Noah led to the formation of diverse peoples and nations. The genetic and cultural diversity observed today can be traced back to this point of new beginning. In fact, the Bible records in Genesis 10:32, these are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations in their nations, and from these the nations were divided upon the earth after the flood. Thus, all contemporary humanity descends from Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The ethnic variations, cultural characteristics, and biological adaptations developed over the centuries can be understood as part of divine providence, adjusting humanity to the new climatic and geographical realities of the post-Diluvian world. Current genetic research confirms that the existing diversity may originate from a small number of common ancestors, corroborating the veracity of the biblical account. In ecological terms, the restructuring of fauna and flora required rapid and efficient adaptation. Animals released from the Ark established new ecosystems, occupying empty niches and repopulating land devastated by water. This phenomenon, known as adaptive radiation, is observed in modern times after localized extinction events. Spiritually, the post-flood era instituted a new understanding of the relationship between man, creation, and God. Awareness of the fragility of life, the seriousness of sin, and the majesty of divine mercy profoundly shaped the worldview of Noah's descendants. The altar built by Noah upon leaving the ark, described in Genesis 8:20, reflects this new spiritual dimension. And Noah built an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast, and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings upon the altar. This act of worship expressed gratitude for salvation and acknowledged God's absolute sovereignty over all creation. In response, the Lord established a new covenant, as recorded in Genesis 8:21-22, and the Lord smelled the sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will no more curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night, shall not cease. This eternal commitment ensures the stability of the seasons, the continuity of natural cycles, and the sustenance of life until the end of time. Thus, the impact of the flood transcends the initial destruction. It represents a cosmic renewal, a new beginning for humanity and for creation, based on a covenant of grace and hope. The story of Noah, far from being a simple narrative of catastrophe, is a hymn to the restoration, covenant, and faithfulness of the eternal God. By the end of this journey, Noah's Ark reveals itself to be much more than just an ancient tale. It is a vivid testament to one man's unwavering faith, to God's direct intervention in human history, and to the astonishing sophistication that divinely inspired work can achieve. Every aspect, from the precise construction with the right materials to the perfect logistics for accommodating and sustaining animal life, to the ventilation systems and stability in the midst of the greatest cataclysm of all time, points to a design whose excellence transcends any single human capacity. Noah's faithfulness in fulfilling every divine command is summed up in the words of Genesis 7:5. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. There was no improvisation. There was no rebellion, only reverent obedience, resulting in the preservation of life and the perpetuation of the human and animal lineage. The ark floated, resisted, protected, and landed safely, testifying to the strength of a plan devised in the heavenly courts. More than a physical refuge, it represents God's spiritual protection over those who trust in His word, even when everything around them seems to be falling apart. The rainbow, appearing in the sky as an eternal reminder of the covenant, proclaims the promise in Genesis 9:16. The rainbow will be in the cloud, I will see it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature, of all flesh that is on the earth. The vision of the rainbow to this day is a silent invitation for humanity to remember God's grace, patience, and commitment to His creatures. The account of Noah's Ark also prophetically points to a greater truth. Just as Noah and his family were saved from judgment through the ark, humanity finds in Jesus Christ the only safe refuge from the final judgment. In 1 Peter 3:20-21 it is recorded, "Who in time past were disobedient when the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah while the ark was a-preparing, wherein few, that is, 8, souls were saved through water. Whereunto also now, after a figure, even baptism saveth you, not the putting away of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward God, by the resurrection of Jesus Christ." Thus, to understand the story of the ark is to understand a divine model that continues to echo through time, a call to faith, obedience, and trust in the Creator's perfect plan. And to those who contemplate the rainbow today, the invitation remains. Remember that the same God who saved Noah is the one who still offers salvation today to all who believe in Him. May this truth enlighten the hearts of all who hear this message.